Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Fighter's Heart podcast. We're sitting here with Zac Wolfe. How are you doing, Zac?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Hey, thanks for coming on, man. We're uh we're on episode about I think 30 something at this point.
Nice.
Um and you know, we're just trying to hear about your story, about how you think you've exemplified someone that has a fighter's heart. But before you get into that, give us a little bit of your background, where you're from, how old you are, and whatnot, and then go into your story.
All right, awesome. So, like you said, I'm Zac Wolfe. I'm from PA, super small town in PA, South County. And I grew up with one traffic light in my hometown, so it's super small. That sort of is an example of how small it is. And I was prior to my accident, which I'll get into how that all happened here in a second. Prior to my accident, I was always on the go. Uh, I grew up wrestling all through high school, my high school years. Loved working on vehicles. I was an outdoors person, hunting, fishing, anything like that. Huge into that. And I was a person that never asked for help. I would struggle my ass off before I would ask for help. So I was always super, I guess you could say, motivated, self-motivated. And when I was 19 years old, I we were camping for the 4th of July weekend. So 12 years ago, on July 3rd, we were camping and we had to run back into town to get some alcohol. We were partying in the woods. We weren't supposed to leave. And buddy drove. I jumped in the middle seat of a single cab truck and we had to run into town. It was about 5 miles away. When we left, by no means, everybody was drinking, but we were not super bad shape. But a buddy, we were about a mile outside of town, and my buddy overreacted on a turn, and a car was we were in the other lane. He had to swerve, causing the truck to roll over. When the truck rolled over, like I said, I was in the middle seat. The roof came down on my head, causing, I didn't even know what to think. When I saw what was happening, all I could basically say is, oh, fuck, here we go. And we hit a telephone pole, and I woke up face down in the road. Couldn't move anything. Couldn't move from my neck down. And not to get gory or anything, but I was coughing up blood. I was solid blood. No idea what was going on. And I remember my buddy ran down to me and said, hold on, the ambulance is coming. I kept going in and out of consciousness. And when something, I always say during my story, I knew something was seriously wrong for the simple fact that I couldn't move anything or feel anything below my neck. But the split second, it seemed like 2 hours I was out, but the second I was out, I saw the brightest white light I've ever seen in my entire life. And it was something I always have to mention because it was absolutely insane. Don't know what it is. They say there's a lot of background to that, but it was super scary. Next thing I knew, I was getting transported to the nearest trauma center. And that's where I found out that I had a spinal cord injury. I had no idea what a spinal cord injury was. 19 years old, thought, this might be a little setback. I knew I screwed up big time, but I didn't know how bad. Still didn't know through all ICU. I was in ICU for 7 days, and they said I had a C5, C6 spinal cord injury. So I thought maybe in a couple weeks, couple months, I'd be good to go. Because prior to this accident, I was a hellion on a dirt bike and wrecked, and I was laid up for a while on a dirt bike due to a dirt bike wreck for a spleen injury. So I just thought, I was going to be good to go. Well, when I got to inpatient rehabs, where I really found out how bad I was injured, I couldn't sit up on my own, couldn't brush my teeth on my own, couldn't get out of bed, couldn't roll on my own. I could literally do absolutely nothing on my own. And for a 19-year-old, that's some hard shit to handle. Mentally, I felt like I hit rock bottom, which I did hit rock bottom. All your dignity goes out the window. It was having to have nurses shower me. My parents do everything for me. And it's sort of where my whole story starts. that's my background story. Where my whole story starts is the third week out, second or third week I was in inpatient rehab, which I was there for 2 months. Is when I woke up. It was 1:36 in the morning. I remember looking at my phone, well, looking at the time, and I thought to myself, this is on you. Nobody can fix this situation. You can cry, you can whine, you cannot get out of bed, you can refuse to do anything. But guess what? That's on you. You're not going to get anywhere. You're never going to live on your own. You're never going to be able to do anything. And this is on you. So from that day forward is where my story started. But that's a little bit of a background.
Mhm. Well,
Yeah.
going back, so you took like a stoic attitude on the whole situation. Like, if I can't, I got to do what I got to do. I got to just
Yeah.
can't whine about it.
Yes.
Big man. So going back to the accident, real quick, was it like a split second thing? Were you able to like brace yourself at all, or it was just like swerve gone?
It, it, it was all my stories to say in a blink of an eye. It was literally in a blink of an eye. We came around the turn, just to put it in perspective, came around turn, car was on our side, swerved, hit telephone pole, and woke up face down. It was like I blinked my eyes and my body, everything in my body was gone.
Wow.
Couldn't talk. It was super scary, super scary. And you remember those things, and um I never really remembered back to that because I blocked. Your mind is such a powerful thing, and I think I blocked that portion out. But I really wanted to dig deep and think back of what actually happened, and I was able to recover a lot of the um, details of my buddy running. My buddy lived up about 100 yards up the road, ran down because he heard the wreck. He was supposed to be camping with us, and he just was saying, "Hold on, the ambulance is coming." And the other two buddies, I was in the middle, driver. There was a driver and then a passenger, and they were both perfectly fine. No injuries.
Wow.
It's crazy.
It happens like that a lot, man.
Yeah, it was super crazy.
So you said you were in and out of consciousness as they were taking you to the hospital. What's like your first moment where you woke up and you stayed conscious? Do you remember when that was?
Yeah, I was in the ambulance, and I remember looking over at my mom, and she was just freaky. She was like white, didn't know what to say, and I was just saying, what I was trying to figure out what was going on, and they couldn't tell me. And I got transferred by ambulance to a hospital, and as soon as I got to that hospital, they did a CAT scan, an MRI CAT scan, and life flighted me out to a nearest bigger trauma center. And at this point, we still didn't know. And I remember being in the helicopter, and I remember, telling them to get me out of there, get me somewhere where they can help me. They flew me there, and I just remember I get to the trauma center, and all these people in white coats are on me, cut my clothes off, and it was crazy. So I actually got surgery. I met my surgeon that July 3rd, and I got surgery on the 4th of July, which was absolutely crazy. And the surgeon said, everything did go very well. And I've seen amazing things. So, just told my parents, don't do anything like crazy right now. Just we'll see how it goes. But I really didn't regain much function after those 7 days in ICU and then into inpatient rehab. Didn't really gain a ton. So it was very, very hard.
Were you able to eat and speak?
I had they had a intubated or whatever for the first couple of days, and then I couldn't eat on my own. Somebody had to feed me. I didn't eat much because I just felt sick. When I got the inpatient rehab is where they started getting me into meal schedule. I started eating more. But again, I couldn't feed myself. So breakfast, lunch, and dinner, somebody had to cut it up and feed me because I couldn't move my arms or anything.
Wow. So how long did inpatient rehab last?
I was in inpatient rehab for 2 months.
Okay.
2 months, and then, Yeah.
And what's the day to day? They're just trying to like do small little movements with you, I guess, like little progress at a time.
You know, it's a good point to touch on because I get a lot of questions like this. Um, Inpatient rehab, I was discouraged because all they were doing was, I was in this situation. So their goal was for me to transfer to home life, meaning they were going to try to show my parents how to care for me because this was me now. This was where I was going to be. And it was really hard for me to hear. Like things may not get better. You're going to have to help Zach every day. Like you're going to have to help him get dressed. You're going to have to help feed him. You're going to have to help do everything. And for me, it's like, holy crap. I mean, they didn't want me to hear, but I overheard everything. And it's like, wow. But they basically worked on showing my parents how to transfer me in and out of bed. Different skills I worked on different balancing skills, trying to sit up on my own, trying to roll on in bed, which was nearly impossible. So we had to have like ladder bars, they called them, so I could roll. And all these things were just piling on. Pressure issues. You had to be rolled every couple hours so you didn't get pressure issues on your back or your hips. It was crazy. So basically, day to day was training me to home life, to my new life.
Yeah, so it was less of a rehab, more of training for your parents.
Yeah, basically, and then towards the end, we did start doing some weight activities, trying to get a little bit of strength back because I lost all my strength. I couldn't do anything. So we did try adaptive weightlifting and attempted to try to get me upright in a standing frame, which was terrible because I kept passing out. Every time I'd get upright or sit up too fast, I'd black right out. So it's crazy. It's crazy.
Wow. So where did you go from there? As you said, you had like the premonition of like you're not gonna give up. You're gonna make it work, right? You're gonna
Yep.
overcome what they told the diagnosis. So the diagnosis was basically you were gonna be like that forever.
Yeah, the diagnosis was, after all this, the 2 month stay, this was my new life, C5, C6, quadriplegic, and didn't have any really much feeling below my neck and couldn't do anything myself. So that was the most devastating thing. You can't even explain the feeling in somebody's body unless they went through it, what that was like.
Yeah.
It was insane. But that night I woke up, and the next day is when the work started. Do you want me to go into like how that started?
I would love to, yeah.
All right. So like I said, I had that night. I woke up next day and I was like, all right, we need to do this. I literally completely changed my whole attitude. I started to train my mind to focus on a goal, start small, focus on a goal of picking up, because my hands didn't work. Try to focus on I would sit in bed for hours and try to move my fingers. Like my left hand, I had no movement in, and I would sit there for hours, typing on my phone, trying to pick something up. And I would envision this goal. Okay, you're going to pick this up. First start here. Try to lift it off the table. So I'd get that far. And I would envision what I was going to do. So I did have bad days. I had absolutely terrible days. And I don't want people to think that, after that day, everything was, I was in a great mood. I was not. The work started. So I told my therapist, you guys, we need to amp this up. I want to get better. And towards the last week is when they started trying to do different things with me. By that time, I was getting ready to transfer to go home. I live in such a small area. I didn't know how care would be. How were they they never worked with a spinal cord injury patient back home. What was I going to do? So I actually personally called the physical therapy back home and said, listen, here's my deal. Here's what I got going on. And I talked to the director and I said, I need to go somewhere that's going to work me hours a day hard. And he said, I believe we can accommodate. We'll put you with my two best therapists. And 2 weeks later, I was going to outpatient rehab. I had to ride the ATA bus, a transportation bus, because I couldn't transfer in and out of a car. And this whole thing changed my parents' lives and everybody around me, because my mom basically had to quit work, take me to therapy every day, get me dressed, feed me, get me to therapy. So I didn't focus on that stuff, the stuff that, really hurt me, that I couldn't get dressed, I couldn't eat on my own. I shifted my whole mindset. I blocked that whole part out, shifted my whole mindset to therapy. This is what I got to do. So we went in and started working. And when I mean working, I started doing therapy, physical therapy for 2 hours. We would take some breaks at the beginning because I was very weak. Then I'd go to occupational therapy, which would work on my hands for another hour and a half. I would go home, rest for 2 hours, 2 or 3 hours, and me and my mom or me and my dad or my grandpa would start working out again for another 4 hours. I was either sitting, standing, doing balance activities. I failed thousands of times. I couldn't sit up on the edge of a bed at all at first. I had somebody behind me, and I would sit up, and I would maybe sit there for 10 seconds, and I would start to black out, or my blood pressure would drop, and I would have to lay back down. So we just practice. And that is the practice, in the doing was what got to me where I am, because the things that didn't work, that doctors told me I had a pretty severe C5, C6 injury. You don't know how far you're going to get. And I remember the doctor saying, this is your, Zach, you've been a couple months out, a year out. This is your life. Do you need to go back to school? You need to start your life. And I thought, no, I'm not going to be here. This isn't my life. This is temporary for now. And I really started working on muscles. Didn't work. My triceps, when I couldn't move, my tricep would just fall right in my head. Both triceps would just fall right on my head. No movement. Somebody would do it, and I would just envision going up, down, feeling the movements. Eventually started bringing some feeling back. Then I started getting movement.
Was there ever a time, sorry, but was there ever a time where you were like, maybe like not seeing progress as quick as you wanted to, and you're like, maybe this isn't going to work? Or were you just like so determined, we're like, it's going to work no matter what?
No, I got down on days and I plateaued. I didn't see the progress I was making, because it was me. I was just working as hard as I possibly could, but I still cried. I had terrible days and just, said, I'm done. I don't want to do this. But what separates me and what's different with me is there'll be days that, like, even up to today, I'll say, I'm not lifting today. I don't feel like working out. I get so guilty. I feel so guilty that I won't sleep. Like, I have to do, if I say I'm going to do something, I have to do it, or it screws up my whole mindset.
Yeah.
So I have to, that's how I trained my mind to work. If I say something, I'm going to do it. And I learned that that's the only thing that I realized that I can control in life in general is my mindset. Like, my mindset is everything. I'm not going to control what's going to happen tomorrow, but I can stay a positive mindset to see how I'm going to get to that next step. What I'm always envisioning my next step. And I think that's what also got me. I would set a goal. I would crush that goal. Then I would set another goal. It may not have happened a week, a month, a year, but it happened. And I keep I guess like a goal vision board of things I need to accomplish. And it's amazing to see the things that checked off. Unreal.
Yeah, and you don't notice until you look back and see all those things, because
You're right.
you really realize it, right?
You're right.
Yeah, cool. So where did you go from? Maybe continue on the timeline
Okay.
with your rehab process, because this was 12 years ago, right?
12 years ago. Yeah.
So
So
where are we at now? Like, is this like a year later? You're
yeah,
about
about a year later. We'll say a year later. and I was still at physical therapy. But by this time, say a year and a half later, I still had trouble sitting up in my wheelchair on my own. I still couldn't transfer very well, but I wanted to drive. So we're at this point where I wanted to drive. And for me to drive, I told myself in my head, I'm not driving unless I can transfer into the car myself, get my wheelchair, break it down, and put it in the car myself. I'm not driving. And everybody's like, oh, just get your license, get your car modified with hand controls, and then, somebody can help you. I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. So this is a side note from therapy, but we worked on it in therapy. Transfers, just tried to get up from the ground. If I fell out of my wheelchair, we would work on how would I get up from the ground to wheelchair level or car level. So we worked on that, and that took months to be able to crush that goal. There was days I just wanted to quit, and my therapist pushed me. I pushed myself. I had to do it. I sat in my driveway, my parents' driveway, for 8 hours one day, trying to transfer in and out of the car. I would get into the car. I figured out how to transfer. I mastered that task. Now I had to get the wheelchair in the car. I had no idea how to do it because I am from such a small area. There was not people in wheelchairs. Yes, there was YouTube videos, but seeing it in person was totally different. So I had a lot of dents in my car, but after those 8 hours, I got my wheelchair in my car and back out of the car. It might have took me an hour to do it, but I did it. So then I progressed to get my driver's license, and therapy still continued. And I can't stress enough, and for people to understand, and they say I'm nuts. I did therapy. By this time, I was doing therapy 8 hours a day. Yeah, I took breaks in between, but I was literally just crushing my body. I was taking, I was eating, I'm still eat healthy, and I was just doing everything I possibly could. I had a goal to prove this doctor wrong after when I went back 2 years later to see this doctor, to show him, listen, doctors may know the medical side of things, do not know the heart a person has. I don't care what they say, you can do whatever you put your mind to. And I went to that, we're about 2 year mark. I went to that appointment, and I think he was sort of blown away. Did not even know what to say. I wheeled myself into the room, which I was doing for about over a year and a half by that time. But I was told I'd be in a power wheelchair. I would not be able to push a wheelchair at all on my own. So I wheeled in there and sort of said, I said, I don't need you anymore. I said, I appreciate everything you did for me. I moved to a different doctor, and one that was more like, wow. He said, you just have to continue to work. Don't quit. Whatever you're doing something right. And I was like, yeah, I work my ass off. It's unbelievable. Literally blood, sweat, and tears. But along this whole period, I did get discouraged. I did get down. There was days I didn't want to get out of bed. There was days that I didn't want to do anything. But like I said, when I started training my mind to focus on my goal of someday living independently was my first goal. I need to figure out how to do that. I was so focused that if I didn't do something, get out of bed that day, it ruined my next couple days. Eventually I just did what I had to do. Didn't matter if I was sick, didn't matter if I was tired, didn't matter if I didn't feel like it, didn't matter if my body didn't want to cooperate that day. I worked through UTIs. UTI is a big thing with spinal cord injuries. I've worked out through them. I mean, anything I got thrown at me, I never missed therapy, never missed therapy.
Have you always been this determined even before the accident, or is it like it developed over these last 12 years?
It's definitely developed a lot more over these past 12 years, but I wrestled, and the determination was, and the discipline of that sport, I think, trained me for this. It completely, you know, people ask me, how'd you stay motivated? I didn't stay motivated. It was discipline. I knew what I had to do, so I did it. I'm not motivated every day. My post and social media post may, I do post the bad with the good, but may say, wow, he's really motivated. I'm motivated. I'm disciplined. If I have to do something, I know I have to do it.
It's the Mamba mentality, right? Kobe.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, it's awesome.
But yeah, so I'll fast forward a couple more years. And eventually I was, after years, say about 8 years, 5 years, I was able to, even, I guess I'll step back 3 years. I was starting to be able to do things. I was realizing I can find ways to do everything I used to do, just in a different way. I adapted to the situation and I tried things. I stopped getting scared of doing things. Or if I fell in my wheelchair. I do fall in a wheelchair because I try things a lot, but I stopped caring what people thought, the image of me wheeling through, because people tend to stare when I'm getting my wheelchair out of my car. To this day, people stop and look. I realized I don't give a shit about that. I'm living my life. I'm doing what I have to do. And, if you want to watch, whatever. But I stopped caring what the image of, I was prior to my accident, I was so into weightlifting, working out, and super healthy. And my body sort of went in a different way. I was with the quadriplegic, you don't have a lot of abs, so you get a little belly and stuff. And it used to bother me, but now it's not, it don't bother me.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I mean, things could be a lot worse than a
Yeah.
little belly, right?
Hey, you're right. Yeah, you're right. But eventually, got married to my wife. She was with me. My wife was actually with me every step of the way of this whole process. From
When
day
did you
one,
get married? You got married on when did you get married?
2016,
Oh, so you were
15, 2015,
oh.
2015. My wife just yelled downstairs. 2015. August 22nd, 2015. But she was with me every step of the way, and she literally, she was one of the number one rock behind it. And when something like this happens, if I lived at my parents, and when I did live with my parents, my mom would always help me do everything. She would help me do everything. And that wasn't good for me. I thought it was, but it wasn't good for me. My wife would say, "Oh, you can grab that and eat it." No, or you can get that. Or I drop something, pick it up. Like that, people may look that weird, but that is what got me also to this point. Is now I do everything on my own, everything.
Yeah, it's like yeah. How else are you gonna get better? You have to practice.
You're right, and
yeah.
I just see so many times that that's the number one question people ask me: how did you get to where you're at? I didn't depend on anyone. I did what I had to do. I had a lot of support and a lot of help along the way, yes, but I realized this is on me, and I determine my future. I determine my goals. And once I got that mindset and knew what I had to do, I did it. And I had no fancy physical therapy place. I had I work out in my basement. You don't need special fancy equipment. You just need to do it.
That's good advice, man. So 2015 you get married.
Yep.
You have this new mindset now. What's your mindset at that point? Like, what are you thinking about your future and what you want to do?
So in 2014, no, 2011, 2013, 2 years prior to me getting married, I realized, okay, Zach, it's time you need to figure out what you're gonna also do with the rest of your life. Still work out, still do your therapy, but what are you gonna do? Me and Britt, my wife Brittany, we're super serious, and I needed to figure something out. So I tried school, going back to college again. College wasn't for me at the beginning, but I tried it, didn't work out. So a local plant, a family-owned company, took me in, and I started doing couple hours a day work and just sorting, inspecting little parts. So that started there. They saw that right there also pushed me to be independent because I had to be at work. I had to be independent, had to do everything on my own at work. I did get help, but I had to do everything on my own. And I started there. I've been at that facility since then, and it started my future. Like, I grew within the company, and now I'm working the quality department and work on all new incoming parts. So I knew I needed to do something once we, a couple years prior to us getting married, and that sort of turned into a full-time position, which I'm still at today. And I do want to say, like, even after we got married and everything, I worked 8 to 10 hours a day at work once I got into it. And then I will come home, eat dinner, and I'll work out for another hour and a half, 2 hours. And then at night after that, if I'm working on my computer, I'll be in my standing frame. I stand in, it's called a standing frame, to get some weight through my legs. I do stand that quite a bit, but I still do therapy to this day, and I'm still seeing results.
So you're in a wheelchair basically most of the time.
Yeah, all the time. I'm wheelchair bound still. I can walk with KAFO braces that lock my knees out. And last year, right around this time, I was able to start standing up on my own with the braces to lock my core in. And that was a huge, huge step in the right direction. Now I'm able to this is 12 years later, guys, still able to I'm starting to able to kick my feet out, start to use my quads. I'm able to also bring my legs up. Things are still progressing because I didn't quit.
I'd imagine the pool would probably be good for you, like pool therapy.
That 100% right. I was in it's cool you mentioned that. I was actually during outpatient rehab. I was in a swimming pool and we were doing some different workouts, and I still to this day get in pools and try to move my legs around, which I can in a pool. It's crazy, like swing my legs and do different things because no gravity. It's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I just recently, last February, went to do a clinical trial, and I went and saw Dr. Newmanitis, his name was. I went in to see him, and for the first time, never saw him before, and he says, I wheel in and he goes, "Wow." I said, "What?" He said, "I'm blown away." He said, if I looked your MRI, he said, "I would have figured you were in a power wheelchair, that I didn't expect this." I said, "Really?" He said, "Your injury was it damaged your spinal cord bad." He said, "And I would never expected this." And that's the first time I actually ever heard that it was very significant injury. I knew it was bad, but not significant like that. And he said, "I don't know what you're doing, but don't stop." He said, "There's no medical background to why you're where you're at."
Wow.
It's crazy.
So
it's
you
crazy.
like made your own lane. Very cool.
Yeah, you had to.
Dude, so cool. How can people follow your journey, like, as right now? Like, are you on social media?
Yeah, I have my Instagram is zwolf01. That's my Instagram, and then I also have a YouTube channel that I've been starting to do more on. It's Adaptive Outdoors with a Z. I've been posting more on there, but that's and you're on like social media. That I get so many messages from people, and it's so great that I can help people's different adaptive equipment that I use that gets me outdoors, different workouts that I do that maybe could help somebody else alter their workout to try this. Social media was for me, because I didn't know anybody in a chair or disabled like myself, helped me tremendously. So I make it a point. It takes me a couple days maybe, but I make it a point to answer every message, because I have to. Every message that has a question pertaining to, okay, how did you do this? Or what do you use to do this? I love to, I mean, I feel that's my goal now, to help others see that there is so much more to life, so much more to life, and you can live a full life. You just can't quit, and you're going to have bad days.
So is that what you're gonna do? You're gonna make YouTube videos, basically like just answering questions you think people would have or whatnot?
That's what that's what I'm starting to do. That's what I'm going to start to do, and then just showing some of the workouts that I do, and just share my life. I live, and I think just sharing my story on Instagram and stuff has been beneficial to a lot of people, because I show the ups and downs. I show the way that I do things. I show, even get my wheelchair and out of my car. I like posting videos about that, because it may help somebody get over that hump to, oh, well, let me try this and I can get in. Or, different, my hand cycle, how I get on my hand cycle and bike. I mean, it's there's a lot, and it's very cool.
Yeah, definitely, man. Is what was it again? Adaptive what?
Adaptive Outdoors with a Z. Yep.
Awesome, man. Be sure to check it out.
Definitely check it out. Yeah, I'm just starting to get there. Instagram, within the past year, has taken off, just because I think I'm just, I don't know, just different. And I show the struggles. I don't stage stuff. I just do it.
I'm more
I,
of a YouTube person. There's
yeah,
all different people, so I don't use
yeah,
Instagram
definitely.
much, but YouTube is where I'm at.
Definitely. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
what's
that's,
the that's the basic like short-term plan, like keep doing what you're doing, rehabbing, start making videos
yep.
and just see what happens.
Yeah. I am a huge off-road enthusiast still, even before. And, I didn't know how I was ever going to get back into off-roading and jeeping again. And, last year we ended up building a fully handicapped accessible Jeep. My buddy at Hardcore Off Road built it. And everybody, I do want to say, like, everybody has their space, their thing that they do, that gets them that escape. And being in my Jeep off-roading is my escape. Nobody can see the chair. Nobody can see any of my, mobility, like different function issues. It's just me, the Jeep, and the trails. And that also was a therapy. The outdoors in general was a therapy for me, mental therapy. I get out on my bike, my hand cycle, my Jeep, anything. It clears my mind. If I'm having a bad day, I just go for a ride and it clears my mind.
How,
That's another big thing for me.
how does it work? I didn't touch on driving, but how does it work like when you took your driver's test,
Oh,
right? Your road test.
I had to take a driver's test all over again, parallel park and everything with hand controls. And I'm like, this is gonna be miserable. So the driver, or so I drove, and then I had a passenger when I had to train driving, I should say, that had a brake on his side. So, you're driving with hand controls, and I never, since my accident, didn't, I was sort of scared to be in a vehicle again after my accident. So it was hard for me to, once I got back into driving, I was all right. But I have a hand control on my left side that I just basically rotate down for the gas, push straight back for the brake. And my right hand is still compromised, but I put it in a tri-pin that basically my wrist goes between so I can steer. And I took onto it very quickly, but man, parallel parking is not fun either way. So I had a struggle doing that, but I think they felt bad for me, so they passed me. But I was a good driver.
Did you hit the curb?
I think I hit the cone and almost knocked it over, and they didn't really recognize that. I sort of like played it off a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. I meant to do that.
Yeah, I did that on purpose, just so you guys pay attention.
Yeah. That's good. All right. Well, is there anything else that you like? Anything else you would want to tell the audience, or anything you want to bring awareness to?
Um, yeah. So whatever it is you're going through, mental, physical, anything, don't quit. Like that is the biggest thing. You can't quit. And yes, you're going to have bad days. You're going to have terrible days. You're going to have days that you just want to give up. But I've learned through this journey that you can overcome the impossible. Um, Things that doctors, they know the medical side of things, like I said, which I will never take that away from them. They don't know the determination that a person has to. Your mind is so strong and such a powerful tool. You can manifest, I guess you could say. You can do things that if you truly deep down believe that you can do them, you will do them. And never say can't, because if you say you can't, you won't do it. But just know there definitely is light at the end of the tunnel. And if you work for something smart, start small goals and then start reaching those bigger goals. That's my little words of wisdom.
Beautiful, man. Thank you so much for coming on, Zach.
Hey, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Oh, always. We'll have you back soon. We'll send this out to you when it's all done.
Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it, man.
All right, Zach. Thank you. Everyone else, have a good day. Thanks for listening to the Fighter Hard podcast.